Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Dan Shields, and today I wanted to talk about the most melodic scale in pop music. And this is one of those scales that I think it's the most useful scale that you can learn and that you can play. And you kind of know it already. You know, if you know your pentatonics and your major scales, it's contained within those. Um, a lot of times when I'm playing over changes, though, if I play um, just the pentatonic or just the major scale, it has some issues with it that I don't like. And this scale that I'm going to deal with today is called the hexatonic scale. I've talked about it before. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth, though, of how to use it and how to use it over major and minor chords, which I think is super, super important. So a lot of people will say, first of all, what is the hexatonic scale? If I would take my major scale, let's say I'm in the C form of the D major scale. What we would do is we would just drop the seventh out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Skip the seventh and go right to the root. Skip the seventh going down and same thing. Now you've heard this scale a bazillion times. It's like the heart and soul of like the Allman Brothers and a lot of country music and stuff like that. So you know the sound of the scale. And it works great over the 1 chord, 2 chord, and 4 chord. Again, if I'm in the key of D, if I do D to E minor to G, it's going to work really great over all of those chords. All right, let me explain a little bit, though, too, in relationship to the pentatonic. So, because a lot of you guys know that pentatonic. Let's take the pentatonic up into the G form, though. So if I started with my fourth finger on the D note, and this is the first pentatonic that you ever learned. If I simply add on this one, this is the major pentatonic because I'm starting with my fourth finger. If I put in this G note, that's the hexatonic. Now, just like the cage system, there's 5 different hexatonic scales that you can use. It would be good to learn all of them. So on the major, I'm just adding the 4th note in. So let me play a little bit, and then I'm talk through a little bit of what it is. I just made a loop here, so I'll run through the loop. You'll hear like the Allman Brothers doing stuff like this. That sort of sound. Now, like I said, there's 5 different positions of this. So if I started on the C position, I'm going to add my G note in to the pentatonic. And then if I go into the A position, I've got that one, and then into the G position, and then the E position, and then finally into the D position. Oh, sorry. So when you do that, like what you want to do is you want to practice little zones for a while, and like try to get those under your fingers. So you practice one little spot. So if I use this, I'm just going from D to G. I think I did a D2 to a G, add 2 also. If I played that and I just stayed in one position, and what you really want to do too is use pieces of information that you know, and then practice in pieces of information that you don't know. That's a real key for learning how to do this stuff. So for instance, if I took this and I said, okay, I know, let's say, I started here like I did in that last video. So you know that. Which incidentally, that works great over top of this. But when I get to the G chord, you can hear that wants to go to that note. That's why that major pentatonic doesn't work as well, and the hexatonic works great. So if you started playing some of the riffs that you know, and then you started adding in, then you can start going into the next position. next position, which is this one. Then into the A position. And then you're back into that position. So you'll try to work some different ideas, some different sounds in each of the different positions, and work them hard. If you don't know them all that well, just stay in one position for a while. It's great to do with the pentatonic, incidentally, also. Okay, so what do we do with the minor then? How do we deal with the minor? Okay, so let's say I'm in D minor instead of D major. So of course you know your minor pentatonic or your minor pentatonic up here. Again, the minor pentatonic starts with the first finger if you're playing that like common form, and major pentatonic starts with the fourth finger. Okay, so I'm going to put it down here though instead. I'll call this the C form. All I'm going to do is I'm going to add the second note in. So root, second, minor, third, fourth, fifth, seventh, root, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So again, I'm skipping the sixth note of the major scale, or if I'm playing the minor pentatonic, I'm adding that E note in there, okay? So of course you need to know your pentatonics in order to be able to play this. So this is one, it sounds very like Carlos Santana-ish. And again, same thing, 5 different positions of this thing. And I'm going to play a little thing on it, and I would suggest doing the same thing. So let's say I'm in this position and you know your pentatonic. So that's all stuff you know, right? Then if you move into this note, so you mix it in with some of the stuff that you know, some of the lines that you know, and then move it on to the next position. Or let's say you don't know that position well, but you know this position well, and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to add my E notes in. E, E, and E. So you start with what you do know. Then move into a next position. Sorry, I went into the Dorian accidentally. All right, you get the idea. So I'm trying to work all 5 of those positions then. And if you only know 2 of the positions in the pentatonic, for instance, if you only know this G form and you know the C form, use those and work your way through them. If you know all 5, try to work it for all 5. Okay, so you may be thinking now then, I've got to learn 10 new scales. So 5 of the major one and 5 of the minor one. But I'm going to show you that they're actually the same scale. You just have to think about it in a little bit of a different term. So, if I'm in the key of C, for instance, I said you can take this major pentatonic, the standard one that you know, and you add the 4th into it. All right, now normally you'd say, okay, so that means if I go to my A minor chord, I can use that same scale. And I would say not really. So the minor hexatonic, if I'm defining minor hexatonic, I would say that this is C, B, A, G, F, E, excuse me, no F, D, and back to C. So All right, so it looks like two different scales, right? Well, not quite. So instead of going to the minor, the relative minor, which is the sixth chord. Okay, so now don't tune up because I'm using a lot of numbers here. But if I'm in the key of C, C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, those have the same key signature. So if I'm playing in C and I'm playing a C major scale, I can also play A minor. I can play that same major scale for both of those. But that's not the way the hexatonic works. The hexatonic instead is thinking through the one chord and the two chord. So it's not going to the sixth chord. Again, don't fade out on this. 1 and 6 are essentially the same when you think about them in key signature land, but in hexatonic, it's not 1 and 6, it's 1 and 2. So let's say I'm in the key of C. The two chord would be what? D minor. So if I go from here to here, and I said, okay, here's my major hexatonic. If I go up to this D minor, I have the same thing, but same notes, but it's just my landing notes are different. I'm going to land on those notes. Okay, so let me play this a little bit. I'm going to play like a C to D minor, and you'll see I'm going to use the same scale for them, and it's going to sound brilliant. I'll move it up. And you see how I'm landing on C notes there? Then I land on the D notes. All right. So if I'm thinking in the out of the major scale, which major hexatonic is it? Always think two chord. So again, like let's say I'm in the key of E and I go up to an F sharp minor. I'm going to think that E major. And it works both for the 2 chord and the 4 chord, and of course the 1 chord. So hopefully that gives you some idea of how to use that, how to think through them. It is probably the most useful scale that you can learn. It's the most melodic scale that's out there. I think you'll be able to find it really useful in most of the music that you use, that you're playing over top of, especially if you're in the pop world. This is, I would say, the scale that you want to know. And that's the way to think about it. The major with adding the 4th, and then just think of it as the minor 2 chord, and that's the same scale then. So it'll make it simple, so you only have to really learn 5 forms of this thing, which makes it a lot easier. So hopefully that helps you a little bit, and hopefully that's not too confusing. Don't get too confused by the numbers. Like if you actually get your guitar out, put your hands on it and start working through it, you'll have those aha moments. So if you just hear me talking about it, you can hear me talk all day and not really know what I'm talking about, but you put your hands on it, you play over a loop or a backing track or something, and the light bulb will go on. You'll be like, oh, that's what he's talking about. If I play the major, it's the minor 2 or whatever, it'll start to make sense, and you'll start to get some of that theory stuff down as well, which actually is kind of important. It's something that you need to know at least some of in order to be able to make some decisions on what you're going to play melodically, unless you have such a hyper-developed ear that you only use your ear, which most people, it's a combination of like seeing dot patterns, hearing stuff with their ears, learning some like melodic phrases, and knowing just a little bit of music theory. You don't want to get bogged down in the music theory, but if you know a little bit, it goes a long way. So again, hopefully that helps you, and until next time, God bless.